Hello, everyone. My name is Savitha, and today I'm sharing my exploration of instructional leadership, theory, practice, and impact. The purpose of this presentation is to examine the core theories of instructional leadership and also to evaluate the practical application in modern educational setting. Here's an overview of the topics that I'll be covering today and also a short biography of myself. Moving on to my role at Hong Kong Academy as an inclusion teacher, my mission is to ensure equitable learning outcomes for all students. My experience working alongside the primary school leadership and also the learning enhancement team has deepened my commitment to instructional leadership. And I'm also committed to fostering critical thinking and active collaboration among learners, designing engaging and safe environments for students, and also incorporating RELIA, delivering fostering delivering in differentiated instruction and scaffolding, implementing inclusive assessment practices and accurately reflecting student growth, empowering students to take ownership of their learning while mo- instructional leadership is a purposeful and deliberate effort to manage, support, and improve the school's technical core, the intersection where teachers, students, and the community. So, one of the notable theories of Hallinger and Murphy model breaks instructional leadership into three essential dimensions, as you can see on the screen. This theory prioritizes academic outcomes over administrative tasks. Unlike traditional leadership models that focus on operations, this approach centers on the technical core. In this, the leader's role is transformed from a site manager to a lead learner who actively manages and supports the quality of an instruction of and student mastery. As we continue, the model focuses on the technical core, building relationship between the teacher, the student, and the content. It's mainly to drive academic excellence, ensuring the robust curricula and inclusive UDL practices like scaffolding and differentiation is actively incorporated to remove any barriers. Our school uses the UDL framework, providing multiple means of engagement, representation, and expression to diverse learners. Talking about the next theory, which is Lewis's participative theory, our head of school utilized this framework to orchestrate a multi stakeholder revision of the school's mission. This theory perfectly supports our focus on active collaboration and empowering students. The result of this democratic process was more than just words on the page, it became a lived reality for our community. Now let's move on to Leithwood's transformational model. A prime example of transformational leadership was when our vice principal initiated a revamp of the curriculum. She acted as a catalyst for change by challenging stagnant standards and empowering educators to rethink their practices. However, some of the positive side was it was the procedure was collaborative and it had a feedback cycle. However, the drawbacks are the success of a single leader and there might be some vagueness involved along with pressure and fatigue on staff lacking stability. Moving on to data driven interventions. When Actually, data driven concept is one of the key elements of instruction leadership. Instruction leadership harnesses map data as a continuous feedback loop to monitor curricular health and drive strategic choices at our school. While grade 3 map scores plateaued, a joint review between the leadership and the faculty identified a misalignment in unit sequencing. By proactively moving the geometry unit earlier to the year, we realigned delivery with student needs. The result was a quantifiable improvement in year over year scores. Moving on to distributive leadership theory, while many schools in Hong Kong were forced into a reactive mode by the digital divide during COVID, Hong Kong Academy demonstrated a proactive model where technology is not an add on but a fundamental driver of the instructional core and student well being. Our Hong Kong Academy is leveraged as pre-existing one-on-one device program from K to 12 to maintain instructional continuity. Coaching and data. My role as an inclusion teacher involves supporting teachers and assistant teachers in implementing UDL practices in the classroom and leveraging intervention support. So, the weekly meetings that are held in these sessions, we refine our lessons and also plan inclusion. Um, we do not rely on single test scores. We triangulate data when we have anecdotal information from the student, actual data work, and actual student work and assessment data to help us to precisely decide if how we are teaching, what we are teaching, and where we can put our resources. My primary objective is to institutionalize equity, Um, and also thinking about collaborative leadership practices has facilitated a move towards authentic inclusion through UDL practices. Moving beyond the traditional support model, inclusion is in an inquiry based classroom is achieved when the technical core, the interaction between the student, the teacher, and the task, is adapted for neuro educational agility. To institutionalize equity by proactively removing the barriers to instruction and assessment, we view accommodations such as visual supports, extending processing time, and assistive technology not as mere helpers, but as essential instruments that allow us to assess the students' cognitive understanding rather than their disability. Instruction leadership. Some of the challenges of instruction leadership are when there's a constant tension between instructional leader and managing as a functional manager. The cultural resistance and trust is when the top-down oversight model moving on to a collaborative one. And structural resource barriers is when the constraints, when the leader is actually influencing the instruction. Data literacy and implementation gap talks about how effectively the data collected is put in place and for providing better student learning outcomes. Instruction leadership is the practice where school leaders, typically the principals, prioritize the improvement of teaching and learning over routine administrative tasks. While highly effective for student achievement, it is notoriously difficult to sustain. So, as Fabry argues that the trust gap in schools is widened when instructional leadership is reduced to just mere checklist or rigid data collection, rather than being treated as collaborative and relationship process. Some of the structures, some of this evidences of the success of instructional leadership is no longer just theoretical. Robust research from 2024 and 25 confirms that this is one of the most effective ways to drive school improvement. According to Leithwood, while classroom teaching has the most direct impact on learners, leadership is the second most influential school level factor on student achievement. In conclusion, instructional leadership at HK is not just a solo performance, it is a symphony of collaboration, data, and empathy. My journey over the past 7 years has taught me that we cannot simply administer a school towards excellence, we must lead their learning. Thank you.